Hey guys, well, I'm gonna do a little review, if you don't mind, a little review of the Odyssey. It's the huge, everyone's talking about it. It's a huge, big box office smash, and I like Homer. I like the Alien, the Odyssey. I like Christopher Nolan movies. So this was the first movie for me in a while where I was like, I gotta go to the theater and see that, and it's not that often these days, and. Thank God, because it's becoming a luxury item. I'm broke. Should I sort of GoFundMe? Because I went to see the Odyssey, but it was. I thought it was really great. I mean, it was I got up in the middle to go to the bathroom once, and I was like, I couldn't wait to get back. Some movies are like, whatever. There's a few quibbles. Some of the dialogue near the end I thought was like. It read more like a Wikipedia page about the Bronze Age than it did Homer. A little heavy-handed. I could tell that Christopher Nolan had been doing the same kind of Googling that I've been doing the last couple of days in preparation to see the movie. But still, overall, a great movie. And I found myself thinking about it and thinking about how the ways it differs from Homer. And I will say, I've read the Odyssey and the Iliad. I haven't read either in quite a while, so I should offer that disclaimer. But the more I thought about it, and I realized, oh my God, I see what he did with this movie. This is a prequel to Oppenheimer. It's set 3,000 years in advance. So Oppenheimer was his last movie, which made almost $1 billion at the box office. Remember Barbenheimer? And won Best Picture, huge success. And the Odyssey, you'd say, literally couldn't be any different. But the take on the story that Nolan offers, again, he's retelling it with a different spin. So Oppenheimer, of course, you probably saw the movie. If not, you know the history. Basically, of course, Robert Oppenheimer, the scientist who developed the atomic bomb, or I guess he just oversaw the team of scientists who developed the atomic bomb, the Manhattan Project. So then it gets dropped on Japan, Nagasaki and Hiroshima, kills thousands of civilians, ends World War II. We all know this, right? So, and the movie, of course, focuses a lot on Oppenheimer's sense of guilt. It also focuses on Oppenheimer basically being punished. But he's not punished because he created the atomic bomb. There's a witch hunt to get him because he's a communist. Well, the movie does say that he had flirtations with communism and socialism. It seems to suggest there was no real reason to think he was any sort of Russian spy or anything like that, that these were basically trumped up charges, but they blacklist him. And also, he's a Jew, so that doesn't help him either, right? So he basically spends the rest of his life in a kind of ostracized in a lot of ways, a state of exile, and that's what the movie's about. And the sense I think the movie also was implying, I only saw the movie once, right? But this was my interpretation, was they brought up these charges on communism in large part because they didn't want to have to wrestle with stare in the face what Oppenheimer himself was staring in the face, which is the sense of guilt over the bomb. If we can just scapegoat him, make him look like a bad guy, make him go away, it's almost our way of making this situation go away, appease our guilt by, again, making him look like a bad guy. And that's really what they were doing. And that was what that movie was trying to say. So we get to the Odyssey. Well, the Odyssey literally could not be different from nuclear fission and anything like that. We're set in mythological, historical times. The Trojan War, the events surrounding the Trojan War, the Iliad and the Odyssey, if they happen at all historically, probably about 1200, 1300 BC. And, the Iliad deals with events of the war. The Odyssey is the aftermath of the war. So, the Greeks, we know the Trojan War. The Greeks, after 10 long years, slogging away, and they can't overcome the Trojans, despite the best soldier ever, Achilles. The guy's literally half man, half god. But even he crashes out, and he can't deliver a final victory for the Greeks. So they're like, we've had enough of this. We need to go home. And Odysseus says, okay, I got a plan. All right. The Trojan horse. We're going to get this wooden horse. We're going to frame it as a gift. We're going to march straight into Troy. We're going to be hidden inside the horse. We're going to bust out. We're going to kill a bunch of Trojans. And the way the movie shows it is that these don't appear to be Trojan soldiers. They appear to be citizens of Troy, unarmed, and these armed Trojans basically slaughter them, and that's the end of the war. So, this is only mentioned in passing in Homer, and it's made a much bigger deal of by Nolan. Now, it's really interesting to speculate on why that is. Homer's not with us. He's not here to answer that question. It might have just been coincidence. The Trojan horse myth was told much more by other ancient Greek poets, but Homer skirts over it. Maybe he just didn't think it was interesting. Maybe he didn't think it was that big of a deal. Or this is where it really gets interesting, because the Iliad and the Odyssey were written hundreds of years after the Bronze Age collapsed, and they do have this kind of, I think, a little bit nostalgic, wistful tone about back in the good old days, those mighty days of mighty kings and mighty battles and everything else, when gods literally came down and talked to humans, etc. Was this something that was a little bit shameful, and he skirts over it for that reason? I don't know. But what is the story of the Odyssey? The story of the Odyssey is Odysseus, hatcher of this plan, is harassed and punished. In Homer, the reason we're told is because he basically has too much pride. He's arrogant. He's the smartest guy in the room, and he knows it. And he annoys everyone. You know, it's like that guy who's just, he mansplains, he's never wrong, and he just annoys everyone. And so the gods are like, we've had enough of this guy. We're going to make him suffer a little bit. 10 years to get home and everything else, right? And he goes and kills this one-eyed monster, the Cyclops, which turns out mistaken identity, because he was like a made man in the mob. He was the son of Poseidon, and so that's not good, because he's the sea god and you're trying to sail home. So we know the story, yada yada yada. 10 years to get home. But did he really deserve that kind of punishment for just being cocky? I mean, the Cyclops, I mean, come on, it's a freaking monster. It's, kind of eat or be eaten there. Did the punishment really fit the crime, or was that not the real crime? Was the real crime, I think in Nolan's depiction of this, the real crime Odysseus commits was the Trojan horse. And they brought up trumped up charges, the Cyclops and his arrogance. But we need to punish this guy, but we don't really want to say why we're punishing him. That the Trojan horse was the equivalent of dropping the atomic bomb. And I think in ancient warfare, there was some rules of engagement. God knows they were not peaceniks, but there was a sense that you fight honorably, you fight face to face, you don't resort to these dirty tricks, this guerrilla warfare, borderline terrorism. And so I think Nolan absolutely, and he calls it Zeus's law, and the violation of Zeus's law. And so Matt Damon's Odysseus, again, is guilt-ridden, much like Oppenheimer is guilt-ridden through much of the story. And he's punished by the gods, but not necessarily for the thing that maybe he was most guilty of. But Oppenheimer knew, and Matt Damon knows. And also, it's interesting, another deviation is that the homecoming is brief in the movie. He gets rid of the suitors, reunites with Penelope and Telemachus, but then he says, we need to appease all the lost, my crew. We just sail west to this island, we'll properly honor them, and he's going into exile, just as Oppenheimer lived the rest of his life in a kind of exile. And so, again, this is what's so fascinating, is that I realized Nolan basically is a prequel. And it really deals with the same basic theme of should all be fair in war or not? Or should there still be boundaries and lines that you don't cross? And Oppenheimer unwittingly participated in a certain crossing of a line, and Odysseus did as well. The technology was dramatically different and separated by 3,000 years, but that's what it was interesting about. I've only seen the movie once, and I only saw Oppenheimer once, but I realized, that's why he made all these changes. I don't know if anyone else has noticed this. They probably have, but it's really interesting. Speaking of the Odyssey, I can't let you go without this. I have a book out. It's called Meet Me in the Morning. several references to the Lotus Eaters, to Scylla and Charybdis, to I forget, a bunch of Odyssey references, and there's certain plot lines that are vaguely similar as well. But we're not going to get into that. But anyway, I thought the Odyssey was really good. Yeah, go see it. Thanks.